Okay, so this is my second client spotlight, and he was actually my first client, to be very clear, but this is the second video that I've done. And again, my goals of these videos is you're going to see them on my website, you're going to see them on LinkedIn and my social media. And when I really believe in a client, I believe it's my duty to expose them to my network. So when you need what they can provide, if that timing is every right, you've got someone you could trust because I said so. And Paul, I can't think of anyone better. I'm going to do a little intro, and then if you'll close the gaps for me, that would be great. But, Paul, I have worked with previous to going into business by myself, him and his team as a new home builder and executive, and their service was always second to none. And then when I went into business, Paul was one of the first guys to give me a shot and work with. And you've been nothing but professional, classy, and every brand promise that you guys make, you deliver on. And that is actually pretty unique and pretty rare. But I love everything about Home Group. But I'm going to let you talk about HGR. But you are the broker, owner, tons of industry experience. Tell us a little bit before we start about Home Group Realty, maybe a little bit about you, Paul, if you don't mind.
Sure. No. And Mark, thank you very much. I'm humbled and honored to be part of this. And I can't begin to tell you how much I've learned from you. So this is going to be a bit of a mutual love-in almost, but you've been instrumental in helping my business with our strategic plan and moving forward on some fabulous coaching. But we'll come to that. So who is Home Group Realty? Who is Paul Fitzpatrick? I've been in the real estate industry now for about 35 years.
Started when you were 5.
Just about. Interesting story, because when I graduated from the University of Guelph in management economics, I started working for National Trust, which I think has been absorbed by TD at this point. And I was working on the Danforth in Toronto in retail banking, thinking at some point that I was going to make it up to the 30th floor of the TD Center or something like that. But I was doing retail banking, doing mortgages, and I kept seeing these realtors come in with their clients and saying, this guy just bought a house, he needs a mortgage. And they didn't know how to go about it, what to do, and to be putting the deals together and then doing the math and going, wait a minute, I'm getting $17,000 a year at the time, which is back in the late 80s, and he's probably making that in a month. Industry, because I always wanted to be in business for myself. It goes way, way back as a kid. And getting into organized real estate allowed me to be in business for myself with a minimal capital and not having to do an awful lot to get into it, really, other than take some courses. So that started me off. I came back to Guelph, started selling for a small independent brokerage, Donnelly Real Estate, Realty World at that time. And that Realty World franchise was instrumental in giving me the background and the training to start my sales career, because I'm your least likely salesperson. I'm not extroverted. I really have to work hard to be engaged with people. So learned a lot in those early years, became part of the Royal LePage franchise, and came up with the same brokerage over a 20-year period, but had aspirations that I wanted to get beyond sales and get into management or eventually own my own brokerage or take over the brokerage I was part of. And, the opportunity really wasn't there. It was a family-run business, and I could see that they were going to keep it in the family. So it was, 10 years ago this November that it was time to make a decision. Do I keep selling, or do I, follow through on what I've threatened to do, which is to get into business myself completely? And that's where the seeds of HGR were germinated, that I wanted to get out there and help other agents and help our clients, the consumers, really have a fabulous real estate experience. part of what I was finding in the selling side was that what I would offer clients was not the same that anybody else in the brokerage that I was in at the time would offer, or what other agents would offer out in the marketplace. But yet the consumer thought we were we were like a commodity, that we all offered the same thing. So when I opened the doors at Home Group Realty, the plan there was we would have a consistent level of service for all our clients. And that meant that as a broker, what I was going to do was I was going to set the bar up here, that my agents would provide, at that time, professional staging, professional photography. We had custom made signs for each listing. We were doing things at a brokerage level that most brokerages will leave to the individual agent side on. So we were setting the bar, and we were differentiating ourselves that way from the other brokerages in the marketplace. And it resonated with the agents that joined us. We went from a small group of 4 of us, and today we're at 45 agents, and we're number 4 in the marketplace, behind the 3 big franchises that are all virtually double the size of our brokerage. So that's how Home Group has, and over the years it's evolved and grown based on just being consistent in the level of service that we're offering our clients and the level of service that I'm offering my agents. I'm not treating them as just mere tenants. I do take a very much a vested interest in how well they're performing and what they need from a brokerage in terms of support. So that's us. We're an independent brokerage. We're not part of a franchise. We're part of a nationwide group of independent brokerages called the Aventure Realty Network. So I have independent, like-minded brokers across the country that we can network with and share business with. But we are, as we call ourselves, fiercely local, and we service the Guelph, Wellington, Waterloo region, parts of the Western GTA, because of the way our brokerage has evolved.
So that kind of leads me to my next question. So thank you for the background on yourself and the organization. It's funny, just before we started recording, I will share with everybody that I said, you're going to need to talk about yourself a little bit. I could see you squirming. Some of us are more comfortable than others talking about themselves. But I love that about you. It's sincere and it's authentic. And thank you for kind of agreeing to do that today. But on that note, now that you've talked a little bit about you and a lot about your organization and the team, that segue to Fiercely Local, you're sitting in front of the logo right now. If you will, for the people who aren't listening right now from Guelph, that I have in my network from other cities and other provinces, maybe explain the logo and maybe explain what Fiercely Local is. And that wasn't one of the things I was going to ask you, but I think it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, we wanted to, have an image that people could readily identify with Guelph. And one of the things in Guelph is the Basilica Church of Our Lady that sits up on the highest point in Guelph. And it's a very distinctive looking old stone church, which is very characteristic of Guelph. There's lots of stone properties and it really does stand out. And knowing Guelph and having grown up in Guelph, it's a very independent and independently minded community. So we wanted to make sure people understood that we were local. And, from our home here in the Junction in Guelph, which picks up on the same theme, it's all about recognizing that Guelph likes to do business with local people. And we want to stand out and differentiate ourselves from, the national brands that are out there. So that's where we came up with the Fiercely Local, and the image just matched up with, the colors those are our corporate colors, and it just fits in well with the whole theme and the culture of who we are here.
I love it. And probably because I have even more context of having worked with you and your team and living in Guelph, um, you live those words in that brand, like just the community involvement that you guys have had down there in the junction and in other events and the organizations that you support in the city. And just being a tenant in that building down there, that which Granite Homes has done a tremendous job with down
They
there in the
have.
junction. It's such a cool little vibe. You guys are fiercely local. There's no doubt about it. You live
Yeah.
and breathe it, but you also now take that same approach in different markets by, setting up regional offices in those markets and having agents that know those markets. So you've kind of taken it from a just fiercely local to fiercely local in the other markets that you operate too, organically and authentically in the same way, which I love. I just think it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. And absolutely, that's what we try to be as specialized in any of the markets that we work in. We won't take business in areas that we don't know or understand. Even though we're licensed to act anywhere in the province of Ontario, we know where our limits are and we know where our area of expertise is.
Amazing. And you can deliver on it. That's, to me, again, you're sensing that theme, right? I see a lot of brand promises out there, but I sometimes see real cool marketing, but I don't see the customer experience and the delivery on the back end. And you guys live it every day. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So what's different about HGR? We probably touched on it a little bit, but why are you guys different than any of your competitors?
Well, a great question. And it's not one that most consumers would know. Most realtors are considered to be independent contractors. And that term came about years ago and was more of a tax indication that allowed us to be self-employed. But really what a lot of the larger brokerages, franchise brokerages have treated an independent contractor is as the true definition of it, that they leave all the day-to-day business decisions up to that individual realtor. So that realtor will decide whether that listing they're going to take will get professional photography and video or a staging consult or not, or how it's going to be marketed. So there was no consistency in the marketplace. And with over 625 realtors licensed and members of the Guelph and District Association of Realtors, that's a lot of people competing for roughly 3,500 transactions a year in our marketplace. And part of what we did with the brokerage was we wanted to help our agents stand out and have a consistent message and a consistent level of service that the clients could expect. And one of the things that I was always coaching on with my agents and when I'm talking to past clients is, especially when past clients are calling looking for me, and I say, look, I'm managing the brokerage, I'm not actively selling, but you could pick any one of my team members because I'm that confident in them that I would refer any of them to my close friends or family. And that's my guiding principle in terms of who I hire on the team and how we go about coaching them. That if I wouldn't let that agent work with my best friend or my parents or my family, then I don't think they should be on the brokerage.
And I've experienced that firsthand. I gotta, Paul, what stands out to me, and my opinion of realtors in our market. I love them. In my role at Fusion Homes, I was the connection to the realtor community. We were platinum sponsors of GDAR. I have nothing positive to say about any of the brokerages in town. But one of the unique things, and maybe it's because I don't know them as well as I know you, because we've been working together, so I'll provide that as some context. But you talk a lot about coaching, and you invest a lot of time in coaching. I don't hear that necessarily out of all the broker of records. I hear maybe investment in training and going to this course or that course, but you're pretty passionate about coaching your people. How come?
Well, I've had a lot of coaching over the years, and a lot of it has been where I've gone on courses. I've read a lot of books. My library of business books and sales material is, fills bookshelves here at the office. But it's most of the brokerages that I've been associated with, it's easier to outsource that and say, Paul, as an independent contractor, if you want to be a better salesperson, then go take a course, go pay for it. We'll recommend this one because that's what the franchise recommends. But again, I wanted to have a consistent level of coaching, I guess, is what I want to say, for my team. And so we'll bring in, experts, and we'll do coaching sessions. We make it part of our onboarding process for new agents, brand new agents, that they have to be mentored. They have to do a certain amount of coaching. They have to have one-on-ones with me so that I know that they understand what the expectations are and what we want them to deliver on. So yeah, it is. It's again, I look at it as part of, this is how I make teams stand out against all the other agents out there.
I love it. I love the investment, and it's that consistency of experience back to the client. And you do that from the way you market and support the sale, but you also do it on how you support the agent's behaviors so that client gets the same service as closely as possible as you can for all of your team. Tremendous. Let me ask you this. And we're going to shift a little bit more into your views and your thoughts here. So it's going to be a little more personal. But before I shift, last thing on the brokerage. What have you learned through your years of operating a brokerage that you wish you knew back then? Is there one you can pick where you're like, duh, that you'd share with other people listening on this call?
Yeah, I would say have more faith in and belief in what I was putting out there.
Hallelujah.
It was, yeah, my biggest struggle was, was I providing enough value to people and to my agents? And I would always question, am I doing enough? Am I providing them enough? And you don't always get, we always get a lot of negative feedback, but you don't always get a lot of positive feedback. And so, when you're trying to navigate in that void, that vacuum of feedback, positive feedback, you don't know whether you're doing the right things or the wrong things. So yeah, just the struggle of knowing and having absolute confidence that we were doing the right things.
Awesome. So confidence at an earlier stage as you get to where you're going to go. Yeah, I nod and I said hallelujah because, as you know, as a relatively new entrepreneur with an employee base of one and one partner, I believe heavily in what I do, and I believe it can have an impact. But I question myself, regularly, like, God, I get it. Why doesn't anyone else? Or maybe it's not that valuable, or God, maybe there isn't a market for this. And as I push through and I have more success each and every week, that becomes less and less. And I'm only a year and a bit into it, right? And so I got to trust my gut a little bit. And I think sometimes as owners, we challenge ourselves too much, and we don't anchor ourselves in what we know is right. So good for you.
Thanks.
What are you most proud of, before I now shift for real to your personal values and thoughts? What are you most proud of about HGR? Like if we're at a dinner party and you had to tell me something about your organization and your team, what's that one thing that you're like beaming to share with people?
Oh, and thank you for giving me that opportunity, because I love sharing that. Not only do we have some of the most productive realtors in our region on a per agent basis, they are so passionate about the business and about what we do, that's the thing that makes me the most proud. We don't want to be the biggest brokerage. We're not shooting to be the number one market share, because it's so difficult to attain, one, and two, it's just an arbitrary number. But when I can say that I've helped an agent, go from struggling to produce and be profitable and to be successful, to one that is well above average in the industry success-wise, and they're having fun with it. That to me is my biggest marker for success. And we have a ton of fun here. We do things together, or at least pre-COVID, we did a lot of stuff together. We do Zoom, Friday afternoon Zoom drinks most weeks. But yeah, we used to do a lot of things together as a team. And we had a lot of fun, and we still do, but with COVID, it's been very, very difficult to do now.
Yeah. I know we're all anxious to get back together. There's certainly, and I'm the biggest stickler of the rules ever. I get criticized for it. I'm too safe about everything, but it's killing me. I mean, I'm a people person. I'm let's sit at a pub and talk about your business problem and chat over a beer. So it's hurting all of us, but I think we're getting out of it here sooner than later.
Yeah.
I can vouch for the fun you and your team have. You talked about the business books that you have, and I've seen that in your office. Do you have Simon Sinek's Infinite Game?
Oh, I don't have that one yet.
I read it in a weekend. And
Okay.
the reason I give you that recommendation, and anyone listening to this, is you talked about, our goal isn't to be number one because it's just an arbitrary number. Here's what we're really trying to accomplish was in your answer. Add value, make your agents better, have fun. That's the whole premise of the Infinite Game, is what social value are you adding, while you build a business, because he calls it fuel in the car, and money is fuel in the car. So you absolutely, it's okay to grow your business so you can continue to provide those things to more people. But the whole premise of the Infinite Game is if you're shooting to win and be number one, even if you get there, you're stuck. You can only go backwards. The Infinite Game, where you're leading your business to a higher purpose, you're constantly trying to get better at doing that because there's no end line. And that's
Right.
really the directions business should go in, because they'll provide value while staying true to their core purpose. And guess what? It's good for business as well. So I love that. If you haven't got that, pick up that book. There's my reco.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give the bookshelf a shout after this and get it ordered in for me.
And after you finish my 126-page book, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on, you know me well enough to not know I was going to put a plug in there. Don't make me.
I should have had my copy here with me. It's sitting at home on my desk.
We should have opened up the interview with you casually. Oh, hello, Mark. Okay, moving on. Enough about me. Talk to me about your leadership style. How would you define it, and why have you chosen that style?
And this is where, again, why you and I have such a good fit. And we've had conversations about leadership. And I believe that I fit in that servant leadership category. And I follow the concept of it. I don't ask my team to do something I'm not prepared to do or haven't done. And it's not, I make it about them. One of the books, and again, I think that was it Simon or was it, I forget, but Leaders Eat Last.
Simon, yeah.
Yeah. That kind of stuff resonates with me. It's not about me. It's not about what is the team and the company doing for me, but it's about what can we do collectively as a group? What can I do to help them be the best that they can be in terms of being realtors and people and community members? So, we talk about more than just business. We talk about what do we give back to the community. I've got, a bunch of my team members are involved in social groups like service clubs like Rotary and the Knights of Columbus. And we've got tons of volunteers on our group, and, membership. We've probably got the highest concentration of past presidents for the real estate board in our brokerage. And I like to think it's because that's part of our culture, part of our philosophy, that if we're going to be local, we want to contribute back to the community. and we want to be part of the community. It's not just about how many deals can we do, how many houses can we sell.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, and I see that all the time with what you guys provide, and I don't know, and of course you're a client, and of course I'm interviewing you, so certainly there's some context behind it, but I sincerely view you as one of those individuals who puts yourself behind the brand and the team, not on top of it. So you see a lot of real estate brokerages where it's like, oh, that's so and so's brokerage,
yeah,
and that's the way people look at it because it's about them. That's not to take away from them; it's just a
no,
decision. Whereas I think if you challenge people who owns Home Group Realty, I'm not sure how many people go, "Oh, that's Paul Fitzpatrick, man. He's the guy, and he's got a bunch of people who work for him." They'd go, "I don't know, but they're a great team." And I think I've met their leader somewhere before, like, and that's a compliment. That's not like the brand isn't you, and that's what servant leaders do. You like I speak in my book about these servant, here I am talking about my book, but I talk about these servant leader influences, that they were never the name in the headlines for those big organizations that I work for. They were the behind the scenes senior leaders that kind of everybody who was there knew provided a ton of value, but didn't need to be in the spotlight. um, and you deliver servant leadership from my perspective, because I watch you and I watch your team.
thank you.
Okay, so sorry, Paul, did you want to say something
Yeah.
before I move on to the next question?
Nope.
Okay, so here's a good one for your industry. And I'm sure you've already been asked this a million times, and it probably comes up at all your conferences and all the meetings, but what does life in the post-pandemic look like for your team? I feel like I'm not jinxing things by asking that. I think
No.
literally we might go through another quick lockdown if indeed it happens, and vaccines are going to catch up, and we are going to get to this post-pandemic world. Um, does that create a pivot for you? Is it business as usual? Are there any red flags, any opportunities? What are your thoughts on when the doors open up again?
Yeah, that's I love that question. It has been a great pivot point for us. Last March, we were one of the first brokerages to close the doors and stop doing public open houses, and then it became, the rule and the law of the land. There was no public open houses. I believe that from a sales perspective, as an industry, we had become very, I'm going to say, lazy. The pandemic came along, and it meant we had to rethink how we deliver our services. We had to rethink how we got people in front of houses and help them be confident that they could still buy and sell homes throughout the pandemic. So it meant we had to be very clear about what our safety protocols were. It had to be meant we had to be very clear about, we weren't just taking, we weren't, as I call it, being Pop-Tart agents, and the minute somebody called, just running out the door to show them a property or meet them at a property. Now it was a question of making sure that they were well qualified, that these folks were serious about seeing things, because we didn't want to expose buyers or sellers or ourselves unnecessarily to COVID. So I think the opportunity here as industry to pivot even further, embrace the technology even more. Real estate is notorious for not embracing the technology, again, because everything is so fragmented with it being independent contractors. There's nobody saying, here's the technology we're going to use within the brokerage. So I see that coming now, that we're going to have consultations and we're going to do presentations via Zoom. It's not going to eliminate the in-person contact when it comes to negotiating and stuff, but I can see public open houses are, if they're not extinct now, they're going to be very close to that. I know that once the floodgates open up again, people will try to rush back to it, but the smart realtors and the smart consumers will realize they don't need that as their major and or in some cases only tool for marketing moving forward.
So am I hearing out of you not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and a hybrid approach of giving customers both options, come on in live or wait till the moment of truth to come on in live, because we're going to get you the information in a virtual world, a digital world, et cetera?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, part of it as well was, and especially given the 30 plus years that I've been in this business, we were ingrained to do this at the kitchen table. And, one of the things that I always scratched my head at was an irrevocable time on an offer was always like 11:59 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made me question why somebody would expect a homeowner to make a major decision at o'clock or 11 o'clock on a Sunday night after, being up for hours and hours, how that was beneficial to them. And so again, here's the opportunity for us to pivot to a more business-like arrangement where, you and I can be discussing the benefits of an offer or getting an offer put together via Zoom or in person. We can do it during normal hours in a very efficient way, and loop the people in that we need to have looped in, and not spend all this time running back and forth across town or trying to, send. And I came up in the era of using fax machines, running back to the office to fax something.
You are aging yourself now, Paul.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But here it's like, let's finally embrace the technology that's here and be efficient about this. And so we're not dragging people out, outside of normal business hours.
I love it. And I love that hybrid approach. Like, I've had a lot of time working from home with my clients, wanting to take my services remotely, and writing a book and doing all that fun stuff, to attend conferences, chamber meetings, industry associations, Zooms. And that's the consistent approach I'm hearing from people is it's not going to be one or the other. It's not everybody's going to the office or no one is. It's going to be about choice. And that's going to be important for your clients, and it's going to be important for your employees if you want to attain and attract.
Yes.
Retain and attract. Oh my God, I swear to God, I've only had 9 beers. No, I'm teasing. If you want to retain and attract the best talent, you need to give them that hybrid model, and you need to be able to give them the support in both instances. So I love it that you guys are already thinking that way of, hey, how do we do both? And how do we improve both? Doesn't surprise me coming from you. So I got only a couple questions left for you. One, and we're kind of wrapping up where I want people to find out if they like what they heard, where you can find them, because that's the whole purpose of doing these videos. I want to spotlight these great clients that I have that I think more people should know about. And they're not the type to go tooting their own horn. So I want to toot it for you, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Where do you operate and what services do you provide? We touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but like very literally for people like, hey, I like Paul, I'd like to learn more from him, or hey, I got a house to sell or whatever. What do you do and where?
Right. So we're a full service real estate brokerage. We're headquartered in Guelph, Ontario, but we service all of Wellington County, Waterloo region. We get into a bit of Halton, so Milton, Puslinch, and those areas. And again, because we're using the technology and we've got membership in the Guelph and District Association of Realtors, the Kitchener Association of Realtors, and the Brampton Real Estate Board, which is TREB, that's our core service area. So basically we're good, an hour, 90 minutes diameter around Guelph.
Pinpoint in Guelph. And
and we're very comfortable servicing those areas. Full service residential, so we deal with sellers, buyers, investors. We handle rentals, and we've partnered up with people like Hart Togman at Rent Panda to help us get proper coverage on rentals, and help our investor clients manage their properties that way. We do some commercial leases and some commercial real estate, but that is such a specialized area that we've got referral partners locally that we deal with there. We've got a couple of team members that deal in farms and know the rural and agricultural side of the business, because again, that is becoming very specialized, that if you don't know, what's going on with wells and septic systems. You'd be surprised, you'd be horrified how we've had deals put together where we've had agents coming out of, the big city and want to know where's the sewer hookup on a 100-acre farm, or where's the water coming from. So there's a lot of education on some of these properties that you need to work with agents that specialize in it, that really understand the product, because otherwise you're opening yourself up to a lot of trouble and frustration in the process. We live in a very litigious society, and as realtors, we're held to such a high standard by the government and the laws that we have to pay attention to all that fine detail. So, anything we can't handle, we turn to our colleagues in the Aventure Realty network to refer outbound or take inbound referrals outside our territory. Commercial stuff, anything that industrial that we don't have expertise in, we and through my years of connections have got experts in those markets and those areas that we turn to refer the business onward to make sure our clients are well looked after.
Love it. I love the expertise by specialization, and I love the expertise locally as well. And the silly example I share with people was I never lived in Guelph till I moved here 6 years ago with Fusion at the time, bought a house here. I lived in Burlington, and before that I lived in Toronto, and I grew up in Montreal, and I didn't even know what the term hard water was. Just as a silly example, if you're coming from the GTA and you're buying a house in Kitchener-Waterloo and you don't know that you're supposed to have a water softener, you're in for a rude awakening when you look in when you're boiling your water for your tea or you get in the shower. Like that's my silly example of like one little thing that can impact your experience as a buyer if you don't have a local agent and you don't have one that has the knowledge in the market you're about to purchase in, like
Exactly.
from a functional perspective. I love that you guys do
Exactly.
both of those. So I'm going to ask you one last question, but I need to say two things before I do that. Two statements. One, I'm looking at the split screen that I now have, and I'm seeing my logo and my shirt's logo, and I 10 minutes ago said how much I admired that it's Home Group Realty. It's not Paul Fitzpatrick. So I get the irony of making that comment when I have Mark Pettipaw plastered all over my wall in my shirt. But that is the brand. I'm one person right now. But I thought I'd identify that for anyone watching it going, but you're wearing it all over you. Anyways, be more like Paul, be less like Mark. I'd also like to say, and I mean this, like you have got to be one of the most authentic, real people I've ever met. And definitely one of the most authentic, real brokers I've ever met in that industry. I believe that's a conscious decision not to pretend to be someone else. And I see a lot of it. Why have you chosen just to be Paul and be okay with that?
Well, I guess, I mean, that goes so far back. I credit my parents for that kind of an upbringing. I credit all the people that I've mentored under or watched or studied throughout the years as I've come up in the industry. And I don't know. It's a tough one to answer, but I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I do what I think is right for the client and for my team, and that's just how I operate, I guess. I don't know. I don't know that it's a conscious decision, other than I've tried doing other things, and if it doesn't feel comfortable, if it's not something that I would do, or again, I go back to the example, if it's not something I would ask my team to do, or I would have somebody do for my friends or family, then I'm not going to offer that. I'm not going to do that. So it's
just you being you. I love it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can't answer the question means it's just you being you. So I love that. And it wasn't a trick question. So let me ask you this, Paul. You're in the business, and I think I I did my network. I owe my network to know about you and your team. So I'm going to do a very simple um, setup for you here
Okay.
to let people know how to get a hold of you. But I think you provide two values: one to clients. So if a client wants someone to sell or buy their home, how do they find you? And
Yeah.
two, you serve your real estate agents. Like you really do. Out of all the people I've met, you're in it for them. Even just your business model of how you work with them, compensate, operate, it's about them as you're growing the brokerage. How does an agent find you, and why should they pick your brokerage versus? So why does it? Let me try this again. Where does a client and an agent find you, and why should a client or an agent pick your brokerage?
Great. So homegrouprealty.ca is our website. And right on the front page, there's the two main attractions. There's our team, and then there's properties you can search. For a consumer looking to get more information about buying or selling, that's a great starting point. They can sign up and search active listings. We've now got a secondary site where they can search sold data. That'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. But they can also research our team members and see our weekly blog post. We do well. We're on issue 251, so we've done 251 weeks without missing, a report or putting out some sort of blog post on what's going on in our local real estate market. Some weeks that's a challenge. Other weeks it's pretty easy, but that's for a consumer, that's the best starting spot. And they can reach out either at my email, paul@realty.ca, or info@homegrouprealty.ca. For agents out there that want to discover more, reach out to me. Same email, paul@homegrouprealty.ca, or text me. My cell number is published all over the place, so that's 519-240-1722. Love having conversations with other agents and in different markets. Most of my recruiting is not high pressure or, in your face all the time. It is very low key. And in fact, just before we jumped on here, I had a call from one of my team members, and they're my best recruiting source. One of them called up and said, "Hey, I've just got a new recruit for you." And they're keen to sit down and discover what we're all about. So like a good realtor's business, which is mostly repeat and referral, our recruiting efforts are based on referrals. I don't stand out at the schools, or at least the old courses at Conestoga, like a lot of other brokers, and catch people coming out of the classroom. They see our signs, they see we do things differently, and I think that makes it very easy for new and experienced agents to have a conversation with us.
Awesome. So homegrouprealty.ca,
Correct.
paul@homegrouprealty.ca if someone wants
Yep.
to reach you directly, or an agent wants to learn more about your brokerage. Info@homegrouprealty.ca for any general public inquiries. And you shared your phone number, which I won't repeat again, only because I didn't write it down. It's so weird, eh? We don't want to share people's phone numbers. It's so awkward. It's all this privacy stuff everywhere,
Yeah.
but you shared it, so anyone who wants to get a hold of you can play that back in the video. I'll leave you with, yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Sure. And you can find us on the usual social media channels. So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We've got Danny, our marketing director. She does an incredible job.
Yes, she does.
Making us look good.
She does.
And that's just part of the team and the services that we provide. We've got such a great admin team put together to look after our clients and our agents. So, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, listen, I'll leave you with this. So now you know where to find Paul if you're interested. One, thank you, Paul. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Thank you for trusting me to be a client. I've really enjoyed the process. Like, we've had dialogue about life outside of business, and that life is short. And so you got to pick people you want to be in the same room with, and you got to enjoy it, or you find a different room. Um,
Exactly.
Boy, I hope I'm never leaving your room because you guys have been awesome. But if that day comes, so be it. It's been a real pleasure to see
Yeah.
what you guys can do and what you do. So thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And if you want to check out Paul, I strongly recommend you check out him and his team.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Paul.
it. Be
You got it.
well. Cheers.
See ya.